Welcome to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. Like any good marriage, we will debate, evaluate, and sometimes quarrel about how privacy and security impact business in the 21st century.
Hi, Jody Daniels here. I'm the founder and CEO of Clover Advisors, a certified women's privacy consultancy. I'm a privacy consultant and certified informational privacy professional providing practical privacy advice to overwhelmed companies.
Hello, I am Justin Daniels. I am a shareholder and corporate M&A and tech transaction lawyer at the law firm Baker Donaldson, advising companies in the deployment and scaling of technology. Since data is critical to every transaction, I help clients make informed business decisions while managing data privacy and cybersecurity risk, and when needed, I lead the Legal Cyber Data Breach Response Brigade.
And this episode is brought to you by the same problem. You have to say ding. Clover Advisors. We help companies to comply with data privacy laws and establish customer trust so that they can grow and nurture integrity. We work with companies in a variety of fields, including technology, e-commerce, professional services, and digital media. In short, we use data privacy to transform the way companies do business. Together, we're creating a future where there's greater trust between companies and consumers. To learn more and to check out our best-selling book, Data Reimagined, Building Trust One Bite at a Time, visit redcloveradvisors.com. I am feeling very Monday morning, end of school, middle of May, tired.
I think you're being too hard on yourself.
Well, that's how I'm feeling.
Okay.
It might be an afternoon cup of coffee kind of. Which
Okay.
I never, ever do.
All right. Well, if that's what you feel you need.
I know. But we're very excited. You've been talking about this episode guest for like a billion years.
Well, today we're going to have a little discussion about AI tools, particularly for legal professionals. And so I'm really appreciative that we have Anita Gorney today, who is the head of privacy and AI legal at Harvey AI. So Anita, say hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So just before we get started, so Anita happens to be the head of privacy and AI legal at Harvey AI, and she's based in New York. Harvey is an AI tool for legal professionals and professional service providers. Before Harvey, she was Privacy Counsel at Stripe. She studied law in Sydney, Australia. We'll have to talk about that, and began her career there before moving to London and then New York.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So, Anita, we always like to understand a little bit more than our brief intro of your career journey.
Sure. So, as Justin mentioned, my career started in Sydney, Australia. That's where I grew up, and that's where I went to law school. And my first job out of law school, probably like so many other privacy professionals you guys have on this podcast, was not in privacy. I was a litigator. And I really enjoyed it, but it was always my dream to move to London and work in the UK as a lawyer. And it's actually quite a common path for Australian lawyers to take to work for a couple of years in the UK. So I got my visa together, I packed my bag, I promised my parents that I would move back to Australia within a couple of years. And I headed to London, where I got a job at a big UK law firm called Kennedy's. And I was still working in litigation, but it was around 2013, 2014, and the GDPR was being drafted and it was in the news a lot. And I was just like really drawn to it. I found it to be really interesting area of law, and something that was like so relatable, right? I am a consumer. I use the internet. And I was becoming increasingly aware of how companies were collecting my personal information. So I did whatever I could to get some privacy experience, attended seminars. I eventually did my IAPP exams. And I did whatever I could to do some incident response work, and some GDPR work. And then in 2018, we decided that we were going to move to New York. It was actually my husband's career that instigated the move to New York. And I was very fortunate that Kennedy's had an office in New York and they offered to transfer me here to New York. The first like 10 months of being in the United States was very difficult because I was working full time. I was still remotely working for some of the partners in London. I was working for some of the partners in New York. I also had to sit the New York bar exam so I could officially practice here. So it was a very busy time. But once I got all of that out of the way and I was a fully licensed New York attorney, I thought it was a really good opportunity to pivot my career and to become that full-time privacy attorney that I wanted to be. So I got a job at Stripe. The chief privacy officer hired me to work on her team. And my role was really focused on like the commercial side of privacy. So negotiating DPAs with our customers, doing all the third-party risk management work. But the role did involve, like I was doing incident response work and product counseling and just really the whole gamut of privacy. And then it was last year, probably exactly a year ago, that a really good friend of mine started talking to me about this new AI startup called Harvey. And it was in the legal tech space. And so she thought that I would be really interested in it. And she encouraged me to look at their website. And lo and behold, they were looking for somebody to head up the privacy function, or the general counsel was looking for somebody in his team to take on all the privacy work. And not long after, he offered me the job. And I've been at Harvey for about a year, and I absolutely love it. I get to work with a great group of people. We're building something that's really interesting and that I can personally use in my day-to-day work. So yeah, that's how I got to where I am.
So let's learn a little bit more about what Harvey AI is all about and the problem it's trying to solve.
Yeah, sure. So Harvey is an AI app or a platform, and it was built specifically for lawyers or legal professionals and some other professional services like tax professionals use Harvey. I guess the problem that we're trying to solve is we're trying to reduce inefficiencies and we're trying to reduce the amount of time a lawyer has to spend on that very manual, repetitive work that most of the time they can't bill for if they're working in private practice. And really, like to free up their time to spend on the higher value, more strategic legal work, which is probably the reason why they became a lawyer in the first place. So within Harvey, within the platform, there are a number of tools that help lawyers do this. The first tool is called Assistant. And Assistant is that Q&A tool that's great for like brainstorming and summarization, and that Q&A style where you can ask it a question and it'll give you a response. So like, for example, you might ask Harvey, you might say to Harvey, the company received a deletion request. Do we have an obligation to delete the individual's data? And then Harvey will give you a very structured answer back that's like really built. The foundation of it is legal analysis. So it will explain to you like, generally, these are the concepts within the law. These are the things you should consider, whether or not you have to delete the data. And these are some of the ways that you should think about doing it. In Assistant, you can also upload a document, which helps ground the output in that specific document. So you could upload the article of the GDPR that talks about data subject rights. And then the output you'll get from Harvey will be like quite different. It'll be grounded in GDPR. So it will reference a specific article in GDPR that talks about deletion. It will say like, these are the obligations that you have. These are some of the exceptions. These are the timeframes that you have to respond. And, this is how you should think about it. Another really cool feature of Assistant that I like is that it also suggests follow-up questions. So it'll give you 5 or 6, like, hey, maybe you want to ask, maybe the next question you want to ask is, this or that. And so it really does help with the brainstorming and help you think about different ways about thinking about the problem. We also have a tool called Vault, which is I think it's our most popular tool, and it's designed for large scale document review. So you can upload thousands of documents to Vault, and then you can extract data at scale. So one way that I used it recently was when we were doing our subprocessor update. We were updating our subprocessor list to add a new subprocessor. And I uploaded all of our customer agreements, and I told Harvey, like, this is our standard language for notifying customers of subprocessor updates. Do any of these contracts have language that is non-standard? Yes or no? And then if yes, what is that non-standard language? I think like if I had done that or somebody in my team had done that manually, that could have taken us a couple of days to do. But with Harvey, we were able to do it in, a matter of 3 or 4 hours, including the verification. So Vault is really popular. It's popular for due diligence exercise, for contract review, for some litigation tasks. And then we have this other tool called Workflow. And workflows like guide a user through a process to produce a very specific outcome. So like if you're doing a due diligence exercise, it will prompt you through the steps of the due diligence exercise and get you to the desired output that you want. So really, Harvey is trying to be that like full tech stack solution for legal teams. If you need technology to help you with something as a lawyer, like you can just open up Harvey and it'll be there for you.
Your new legal little assistant.
Yes. I used it the other day to summarize. I had to look at a bunch of covenants in a loan document. So I uploaded it and I had Harvey go and summarize all the affirmative and negative covenants. And obviously I read them, but that saved me 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that was my case. So,
I love to hear about Harvey in the wild.
Oh, I have other cases, but I think another thing that's interesting, because I go through this all the time when I vet legal tools for my firm as well as for other clients, is, when we're in diligence, how does Harvey address concerns around security and privacy in diligence with law firms? Like, for example, you upload all those client documents to Vault. And so how does security work to make sure that you can do that and have confidence that we're upholding our ethical standards as lawyers for confidentiality?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. I think really early on in the company's life, the founders and leadership identified that in order for this product to be successful because of who our customers are, we had to get their trust. And in order to do that, we really had to make privacy and security at the forefront of everything we do. And, I have a story which demonstrates this. I think it was like my first or second week on the job. And there was like a company all hands meeting. And the CEO, Winston, who's also a co-founder, was talking about privacy and security. I mean, he must have spent at least 20 minutes talking about trust, talking about customer trust, and framing it in terms of privacy and security. So I think that really demonstrates that it's a top-down approach at Harvey, and it is really central to everything we do. We've built out like a very strong security framework. So we have ISO 27001, we have our SOC 2, data is encrypted in transit and at rest. We have extremely strict access controls and retention policies and penetration testing. So we have this like very strong security framework. But I think when you're talking about AI specifically, one of the most important measures that we put in place is that we don't train on customer data and content, and our third-party model providers also don't train on customer data and content. So that is something that our clients really like to hear, our customers really like to hear. And luckily, we have this amazing security team that we work quite closely with to make sure that we are fully transparent with our customers and that they understand this. We have a security portal on our marketing page on www.harvey.ai where you can go and access all this information. And we're constantly building out documentation to be transparent with our customers.
I love how you have a public facing page that is talking about that in a completely different space. I was helping a company vet an AI tool. They don't have any such page. And even in their description, they don't address the common question, are you trading or not trading on the data? There's just nothing. Nowadays, many companies list all their privacy features, security features, AI use features. And I brought Justin into the fun of reading terms, and we actually even found conflicting terms. So net, we were not clear on what this very popular tool is out in the wild. And so that you're able to very clearly and publicly show, here's what we, Harvey, are doing with your data. You can read it here is really helpful.
We have a security welcome pack that we have in our security portal and that we give to prospective customers and to customers, which is very clear and sets out all of these commitments that we've made and that we have from our third-party model providers, like no training. We also let customers set their own retention periods. And we have, like I was saying, very strict access controls. And so we have a process of making sure that data is completely eyes off. Our model providers don't review the data that we send to them to process just for the purpose of producing the output.
That's really, really, really helpful for prospective people to be able to see.
So, Anita, can you be a little bit more specific? You said something earlier I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about, which is how does Harvey really operationalize protecting the confidentiality of the prompts by end users from being used to teach large LLMs? And hopefully you can walk us through a little bit so that the audience can understand a little bit about how that process actually works.
Yeah. So, like you say, confidentiality is really important because for all the reasons that confidentiality is important, but also because of who our customers are, and they have their own very strict regulated obligations with respect to confidentiality. I think all the things that I mentioned, like the no training on customer data, goes to confidentiality and respecting confidentiality. But one of the questions I get asked a lot is how do you ensure that, my data doesn't get mixed in with another customer's data, or another customer isn't going to see my data? So and the process, and this is our process, is that we have put in place logical separation in our infrastructure so that every user is associated with unique workspaces. And the workspaces can't communicate with each other. There's no access between the different workspaces. So we do work to validate the separation. So the penetration testing that we do specifically focuses on workspace isolation and making sure there is no mixing of customer data.
And Justin, maybe you want to talk a little bit more, because I heard you recently talking about for people just to be mindful of when you're doing a prompt and you're thinking about different tools, the confidentiality piece. I think so many people are focused on here's my document, but the prompt I think is also important.
So Anita, I actually have had the conversation now with my publicly traded clients, and I say to them, what security are you putting around the prompts that you guys do? Because if I were a threat actor and I'm, thinking about how I might attack a publicly traded company, I might want to hack in and see what they're prompting. Go after the prompts themselves from a threat actor perspective. And so I guess what that kind of goes to is maybe if you can talk a little bit about, I believe, if the customer asks, you can have it so that those prompts get deleted and are not stored anywhere after they're done, because obviously, depending on the prompt, even at a law firm, you could learn a lot about, well, what are they prompting? What are they working on? Is that, are they working on the, Walmart merger, and that could
Yeah.
move markets? So maybe would you mind
Yeah.
talking a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, sure. And that's what I mentioned earlier is that we give our customers the power to set their own retention periods. So customers can choose how long they want us to retain the data. And so some customers have selected 0 day retention, no retention at all. And so that it is automatically deleted after the prompt or the output is produced within a certain period of time, but within that day. And we also give customers the ability to delete the data themselves or to go into the app and delete the data themselves. So, that, of course, that definitely helps with confidentiality because if the data is not there, you can't breach it, right? So yeah, that's another one of our tools that we use that customers feel really good about.
But I guess, Jody, for your perspective, and Anita probably shares this, is that's another way of practicing data minimization to limit
Mhm.
your footprint of data that could be captured, that could be, maybe it's not personal information, but it's certainly proprietary, and that's a way to operationalize data minimization.
It's a good point. Now, Anita, earlier you talked about privacy by design and how it really being from the top down with executives, including it in large all hand meetings. For those listening, what might be another suggestion or tip that you would offer people of how to have this, privacy by design in their AI tools?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that you have to do is, as a privacy professional, I think there's a lot of responsibility on you to build trust with the product team, so that they feel comfortable coming to you when they want to do something different or when they want to collect new data, so that you can have regular check-ins with them, weekly check-ins with them, and so that they'll come to you with then their new ways of thinking about the product. Getting started on your privacy impact assessment early in the process is really useful, because you definitely don't want to be slowing down the product teams. So you want to make sure that you're evaluating the product or the new features, and if there are risks, you're coming up with ways to mitigate those risks well before they're even considering putting the product in GA. Um, I think the transparency is also really key here. So developing documentation to give to customers or to put on your website, that makes people completely aware of what data you're collecting and how you're using it, addresses concerns specifically from customers. And then as well, another like privacy by design tool that I think is really important and that we've touched on is like giving users control. So letting them set their configurations themselves. So whether that's data retention or like who can within the customer's workspace see data or see another colleague's prompts or share prompts, giving customers control over their own privacy settings is another way that we think about building privacy by design into our AI tool.
And I imagine in certain scenarios like this, the configuration of what is by default is really helpful. Like maybe it's not on by default that all the prompts are shared with everyone in the firm,
Yes.
but that's a choice if the firm chooses or whoever is using the tool to be able to do that. So the control, but also thinking about which way the default is equally important.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Jody. Like, so we recently just launched a new feature within the app, and we didn't automatically turn it on for everyone. It's an opt-in feature. And so people come to it. We have given our customers like all the information we can about what the feature does and how it works. And then the admin has the control about whether or not they want to turn it on. And questions come to my team a lot from customers about like, well, how does this, can you explain how this feature works and what data it's collecting? And we provide the information that they're looking for, and they can make the informed decision.
That makes sense. So communication and old-fashioned talking,
Yeah.
despite all the AI robots in this discussion, actually talking to people is still important.
So, Anita, when you're out in New York, maybe when you're at a cocktail hour or whatnot, and people ask you, what is your best privacy tip that you might have for our audience?
Yeah. So had a feeling you might ask me this question from listening to previous podcasts you've done.
We ask everyone those questions.
Exactly. And I actually thought it might be fun to ask Harvey, what is Harvey's best privacy tip?
Oh, what does Harvey tell us?
So Harvey says, one of the most effective privacy tips is to use strong, unique passwords for every online account and to enable two-factor authentication whenever possible. This approach significantly reduces the risk of unauthorized access to your personal information, even if one of the passwords is compromised.
Those are good tips. I'd agree with Harvey.
Wait, Anita, I want to know, can you show us what are a couple other suggested follow-up prompts from Harvey on this topic, if you might?
Hold on a second. I have to go back into it and have a look what the follow-ups were.
I think it's an interesting because it's a really cool feature of Harvey that it suggests things. I'm just curious as to what it suggested.
Yes. Okay, here it says, so the follow-ups are, why is it important to never reuse passwords across different sites or services? What are some of the common forms of two-factor authentication that can be used? How often should you review your accounts for suspicious activity to ensure your online privacy? And how does using a password manager help in generating strong and complex passwords?
There we go, everyone. Harvey in action.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, those are great. That's a great example of follow-ups and just like helping you reframe how you think about something or giving you a question that you wouldn't have thought to ask. My personal tip for privacy, I thought maybe I'll give you like a tip for like working in privacy. And maybe this is like cliche tip, but building strong networks is really important. So whether that's ex-colleagues or people you met at people you meet at seminars or even people that interview you. I'm still in touch with a woman that interviewed me years ago. And I never ended up working for that company, but we keep in touch because benchmarking is a really important tool when you work at an enterprise company and seeing how other people are dealing with new regulations or changes in regulations. And so being able to have like conversations with peers is a really good tip for becoming a better privacy lawyer.
Now, when you are not doing all things privacy, what do you like to do for fun?
I asked Harvey this question as well. I wanted to see if Harvey knew who I was. And I'm very proud of the response that he gave me because it's very privacy forward. It said, I don't have access to your personal preferences or past activities, so I can't say what you like to do for fun. But here are examples of what people like to do for fun.
So what is Anita's answer? What she likes to do for fun?
So, as you can probably tell, because I've lived in 3 different countries, I do like to travel. I like to see new places and I like to see new cultures. I also like to go to live music. And something that I do, and maybe this isn't so much for fun, but it's for relaxation. I like to do jigsaw puzzles. So especially if I'm working late into the night and then, have to go to sleep, I will do like 20 minutes of a jigsaw puzzle. And it really helps me to unwind from the day. But also right now in my life, I would say that I'm very time poor. I have a young toddler and I'm working for a very fast growing AI startup. So some of that stuff does take a backseat right now.
Understood. Well, our younger daughter likes jigsaw puzzles, but it would definitely not help her go to sleep because she'll just sit for a really long time to finish it. That's why we have quite a collection of them. So, well, Anita, we're so grateful that you joined us today. If people would like to connect and learn more, where could they go?
Yeah, so they could go to harvey.ai is our website. We have some great product videos on there. And you can reach out to our sales team there. Or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Anita Gorney. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes and check us out on LinkedIn. See you next time.